You have to lead kirtan. Jaramadaba. Big guy. Gopi Dhanab Kirivarana Jayam Vishnupad Paramansa Paripajakatar Jostatar Satasi Simanas Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder-Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Sikho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Navadip Maya Bodham Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Shama Veda Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Nitai Gaur Premanande Hare Hare Bola. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Navase Sasunyavadi Prasatya Desatarane. Hare Krishna. It's so nice to be here in the presence of Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees, and of course Sisi Gunatai, Sisi Radhaballabha, and Sisi Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Devi. The sad thing about sitting in this particular spot over here is that I can see Ballabha, but there's someone I can't see because of the pillar being there. But aside from that sadness, I'm so happy to be here. This morning, Hare Krishna, this morning when I was preparing for class, my preparation went upside down. And what I thought I was going to speak about, I decided that I wouldn't speak about it, and then I decided I would speak about it, and then I decided I wouldn't speak about it. And I already had told the devotees not to prepare the class, put up on the board the verse that was scheduled for today. What was that verse? Is it up there? I thought it was something about 9? Is that it? Is that the verse there now? That's.
I read all the way up to the end of chapter 3 the other day, but I don't think the message got to the sloka right.
So is the verse that you said the one that was supposed to be spoken about today? No. Now you can understand why I'm confused. Or there's part of the reason anyway. Yes. So anyway, I'm going to do something more unexpected. I'm going to speak about the verse that, I'm going to start with the verse that I was supposed to have started with, which wasn't the verse. And then I'm going to forget about that verse and then speak about something else. And I'm going to have other surprises planned too. Are you going to be ready for them? Now, could you get a Bhagavatam, that one of the verse that you told me? It had to do with Chayavan Muni. And Chayavan Muni, he had undergone a great transformation of his body. And in that transformation of his body, an old man was turned into a young man. And his young wife was with the old man turned into a young man, and her father became very upset because he thought that his daughter had neglected her old husband and had a boyfriend, basically. And therefore, Sukanya, his daughter, who was very, very chaste, being very proud of her chastity, evam bruvanam pitaram, she was talking to her father, who had just chastised her for having a boyfriend. She said to Pitaram, her father, Smayamana Shuchismita. She was smiling because she hadn't done anything wrong. She was actually very chaste. Smita means what? Smiling, thank you. Yeah, and then Suchi Smita means she was smiling and she was laughing even. Uvacha Tata Janmata, she said, this Janmata, this son-in-law, who was a young man, Tavasya Brigu Mandana. He is actually Chayavan Muni, but using his mystic powers, he had changed. Now here's the translation of the verse. He had changed from an old man into a young man. Would you like to change from a young man into an old man? What do you think? How old would you like to be? If you could be any age at all. You remain a kid, okay. And how old would the kid be if he could be any age? Okay. And how old are you now? 13. We won't ask the old men how old they would like to be. So here's the translation of the verse. Sukanya, however, being very proud of her chastity, smiled upon hearing the rebukes of her father. And she smilingly told him, my dear father, this young man by my side is your actual son-in-law, the great sage, Chayavan, who was born in the family of Brigu. Now here's Srila Prabhupada's purport. Although the father chastised the daughter, assuming that she had accepted another husband, that's a polite way of saying a boyfriend, the daughter knew that she was completely honest and chaste, and therefore she was smiling. When she explained that her husband, Chayavan Muni, had now been transformed into a young man, she was very proud of her chastity, and thus she smiled as she talked with her father. Om Aginachaminandasya Janajana Salakaya Chaksu Samilitan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurvedama Sri Chaitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapantantikam Vansakalpa Tubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaya Patitanam Pabhinebhyo Vaisnavebhyo Namo Namah. Now what is the essence of this verse and the purport? Raise your hand, please. What is the point of the verse? Just going to see if anyone was listening. Yes. Anyone? What's the point of that verse? What's the point? Yes, well, the littlest one. Our little flower. To welcome Krishna. Yes, that's a very deep understanding. That's actually exactly the point I wanted to make. How did you know? Were you using your mind-reading capabilities? No. Okay, any other thoughts also? What was the purpose of that verse? What is the actual point of that verse? What is it trying to explain through the activities, the glorious activities of Chayavan Muni and his young wife, Sukanya? Yes. Chastity, loyalty, fidelity to one's husband in life. Now, what's the point of chastity? Now, in a broad sense, because there's so many levels one can answer that, I would like to say that the purpose is to make marriages stable and fixed. And what's the purpose of keeping marriages stable and fixed? Is to keep peaceful, society peaceful, in a peaceful state. And what's the purpose of keeping society in a peaceful state? Is that because if people are anxiety, if they're always thinking about, is my family stable, the children won't be peaceful, the husband won't be peaceful, the wife won't be peaceful. So what's the purpose of having a peaceful, stable society if one is always thinking about the anxieties of life, and I'm in so much anxiety, where is my money going to come from, where is this going to come from, there's so much crime, there's so much, is my family going to stay together? If one is always disturbed, there's very little chance that one can really think about what's life's purpose. And this is what Kali Yuga basically does. It makes everyone so disturbed, fighting enemies, worried about this, worried about that, attracted to this, I want this, I want that. So much anxiety comes with Kali Yuga, so much upadrutaha. What does upadrutaha mean? Disturbance of the mind. So much disturbance of the mind because of the unsettled nature of Kali Yuga, the unsettling nature of Kali Yuga, that no one, practically speaking, has the peace of mind to think about what is life's purpose. Because everyone's just trying to hold the pieces of life together. And no one is thinking about what's the purpose of life. And then when one becomes old, and even though you're 7 years old at heart, and not 13 perhaps, one day you're going to be, if you're fortunate, an old man, like some of us. Me, for example. I never thought it would actually happen. Do you know I was once 13 also? I mean, Krishna, how old are you?
9.
Are you sure?
Yes.
How do you know?
Because I have my birthday.
You have a birthday.
I have my birthday.
It's a very deep answer. So, no one, practically speaking, in Kali Yuga can consider that life has a purpose other than keeping the pieces together or progressing on the material level. And that makes the human society in Kali Yuga, as Prabhupada would insist in his very strong black or white way, it makes human society a society of not humans but animals, because it's humans alone who have the ability to think about life and what is the purpose of life. Otherwise, when one becomes elderly, one looks back at what one has achieved. I was speaking to one very old and dear friend, and he was very qualified, working in the education department in Victoria, and he was right at the top, and his maybe 30 or 40 years at working there at the top has just ended. And I asked him why, and he said, because there's probably younger people than me who can do the job better than me at this point. And then you look back and you've just been replaced. And what was it all about? What have I actually achieved in my life that I can hold on to? So he was a very intelligent and mature, very, actually deeply devotional person, so he understood that. And he said it so simply: I've been replaced by someone younger than me who could do the job better than me at this point. And then one is confronted, and when we're young, like you, so many of the youthful persons here, we don't know that this is going to happen. We think we're just going to keep on moving. But it ends at some point. And then what? And then one looks and sees and tries to understand, what have I actually achieved in this that's actually mine, that's tangible? Tangible means that I can hold on to it. I can hold on to it, and it will give me the security that I really want. That it will carry me through even the most difficult times. As I get older and older and the body even starts failing me, what can I actually hold on to that is stable? Not this table. Something that is so stable that it won't shake and rock back and forth as my body starts to really wind down and break down. So those thoughts, if we're so fortunate to develop this type of thinking while we're young, yes, I have to deal with the material elements of my life, but this isn't the purpose of life. Life's purpose is something completely different. So that 9th canto of the Bhagavatam chapter will go on until the end of the 9th canto. And in the end of the 9th canto, practically the whole purpose of the Bhagavatam is going to be revealed. Because at this point, at that point in the Bhagavatam, it's describing the descendants of the sun god, and then it moves to the descendants of the moon god, and then when it gets to the point of in the family of the moon god, there appears Krishna and Balaram. And then when Sukadev goes, Swami explains that, and there's some verses right at the end of the 9th canto that describe Krishna and Balaram. Then Maharaj Pariksit, who is close to the time of leaving this world, he wants to hear more. He becomes excited and asks questions. Tell me about Krishna. I want to hear about Krishna. And that eagerness to hear about Krishna is one's greatest wealth. The eagerness to serve Krishna, to hear about Krishna, to chant Krishna's names. This is one's true wealth, because the other wealths that we may accumulate in our life, they won't provide the shelter that we will need when the body starts failing us. Now, that's what I decided to begin with. Now, and then I was listening this morning to a morning walk, as I often do. Guess who was on the morning walk? Yes, Srila Prabhupada. And do you know what he spoke about? Well, soon you're going to find out. Now, it's only 4 minutes. The part that I'm going to play is only 4 minutes and 16 seconds. So I think even Krishnadas will be able to put down his pen and listen, because I'm going to ask the question, did anything strike you of what Prabhupada said? Is anything do you feel is relevant for you in what Prabhupada said? Are you ready? Are you ready? You're going to be able to do it? You're going to try? I know you will, and I know you will. And there was one over here who just disappeared, and she would have done it. Okay, let's see if this works.
One who could not conquer these senses, they are called karmis. Ajitendriyana. So all these penances, more silence, meditation, then studying the Vedic literature, and so many things are there. Prahlad Maharaj, in one word he says, they are meant for Ajitendriyana, one who could not conquer over the senses, for that. And for a devotee, one is actually pure devotee of Krishna. He is Saguna Samatutta. Not that a teeny devotee can claim that he has overcome the influence of the Guru. No. This is called Paramahansa. Saguna Samatutta. Not that, because we have taken to devotion, we have become immediately. The process has begun immediately, curing process. But we should not think that we have become perfect. That is wrong. Yagadana tapakriya natachya. Therefore you must follow the regulatory rules. As soon as you become a rascal, now I become advanced, I don't require to chant, sitting down, I can do whatever it is. Then he's gone to hell. Upstart. Immediately becomes Paramahansa. He's a rascal. He has given the path of becoming Paramahansa. One is admitted in the school, he must learn. And one day he will become a and simply by entering the school, he says, I am a. That is rascal. This is a chance gift.
It is a
Become a Jitendriya. Very difficult task. But it is easy. Immediately becomes a pure devotee. Anna vilasita sunnam. Everything makes zero. All desire except Krishna. That is one thing. But that does not become very easily. One has to try very rigidly, then it is important. Therefore, amongst the devotees, there are three grades: Kanishthadhikari, Madhyamadhikari and Uttamadhikari. If the Kanishthadhikari thinks that I become Uttamadhikari, then he's a rascal. He's a rascal. If he wants to imitate the Uttamadhikari, then he's a rascal.
The cheating propensity?
Not cheating, foolishness. It may not be cheating, but he does not know. Acharya Hare, Jappujan Sudhya. What is that? Natad Bhaktesu Charnesu.
Bhakti Prakita.
Bhakta Prakita Smudha. The beginning is Acharya. But because he has given the chance of Acharya, if he thinks that he has become Paramahansa, then he is foolish. It will take time. The process is there. Therefore, preaching is Madhyavadika. One should take to preaching one. Gradually.
What do you remember? I don't know, were you able to hear it, Prabhupada, all right? I'm sure it wasn't easy, though. What do you remember? Yes.
So,
But yes.
the point that struck me is like
Yes.
began the process, but you are not perfect.
Yes, thank you very much. Very good. Anyone else like to say anything that struck them? Yes.
Prabhupada said it's very easy, and then he said it is very difficult.
Yes.
So
What did he mean? Because I heard it carefully 3 or 4 times. What he was saying.
the process is very easy.
What he was saying actually was that if you're a pure devotee,
Yeah.
if you have an attraction to Krishna, then it's very easy to control the senses, because so it's difficult to
If
become a
you're
pure
not
devotee.
a pure
But if
devotee.
you're a pure devotee, then it's easy to control the senses. All other desires are zero, he actually said. But he spoke at different levels of strength of voice, so it wasn't easy to hear. But he said that, yes, but good.
And then that it's very difficult.
It's difficult to reach that stage
Yeah.
when you have that kind of attraction to Krishna. Thank you. Anyone else remember something? Yes, Paul.
What struck me was that Prabhupada said there are different levels, Kanishta, Adhikari, Madhyama, and Uttama. So Kanishta should not think that I am Uttama, so that right should not be there as progress in my devotion.
Why is that so dangerous? If you're at a certain level, a beginner level, why is it so important not to think you're at the topmost level? What, you have to raise your hand though. Yes. Yeah. But what I was thinking, yes.
He doesn't have to chant to 16 rounds.
Yeah, you don't think you have to advance further. And if you get, and the point that Prabhupada really wants to make is that we're in the school and we should follow the process. Because if we follow the process, we're going to advance. And what does it mean to advance? It means to learn to love Krishna. It means to learn to love Krishna. Tatraloyam apimula mekalam. And if one loves Krishna, if one is eager to hear about Krishna, to be with Krishna, that eagerness is the price to be in the spiritual world. To be with Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan, which prema parama arto mahan. This is the goal. This is the goal. To purify the heart, remove all these anarthas, all the desires that we have that are actually superfluous, external, that won't satisfy us, and develop the actual thing that will bring pure satisfaction, complete satisfaction, the one thing that will bring complete satisfaction to the heart, and that is love for Krishna. So this is the purpose of the whole Hare Krishna movement, to spread the information to the world, practically speaking, that we're eternal souls, that we're not our bodies, and to remove, and it is in our interest to not play in the playground of the material world, on the swings and the roller coasters and the Ferris wheels of the material world and all the toys that the material world will offer us, to not play in that realm, but rather to develop love for Krishna. And in the preaching, which is the middle level that Prabhupada recommended, it is not just, as Prabhupada said in Melbourne, it is not an export business to develop these desires, to be with Krishna, to purify the heart, to learn to love Krishna is really the realm that the devotees want to be within. And to develop that is to be in the school of devotional service. We want to advance in that school till we graduate from the material world to the spiritual world. Now the question is, how do we do that? And then we move to Narada Muni, because he, in the early chapters of Canto 1, describes, it's such a, how many of you have read the first canto very carefully? Raise your hand. If, of course, no one's going to say, yes, I have read it so carefully, I am. But it is so wonderful, and Prabhupada's purports are so powerful and so to the point. The whole Bhagavatam is actually this journey to bring us to that 10th canto, and to have the eagerness that Maharaj Parikshit had when he heard Sukadeva Goswami talk about here is the fruit of the Moon dynasty, Krishna. And Sukadeva said that, and he gave some beautiful, beautiful verses describing something about Krishna's pastimes. And Maharaj Parikshit said, please tell me more. I want to hear more. I want to hear more. That eagerness was so. He had heard the Bhagavatam from the beginning till the 9th canto, and now he wanted to hear about Krishna. I need to hear about Krishna. So I wanted to, in this first canto, there's so many striking pastimes in the first canto, and one of them is what I had hoped imagined I was going to speak about, was the life of Narada Muni. Because it's so wonderful. It gives there's such a powerful instruction for devotees who are living their lives, and how to live their lives so that they achieve the goal. It's something to really aspire for. And here's one part of it, when Narada Muni is speaking to Vyasadeva about his birth and how he was born in just such a difficult situation where he didn't even know who his father was. His mother was poor, just a maidservant, but somehow or another, due to the piety of his previous lives, he came into the association during the Chaturmasya. How many months are in the Chaturmasya? That's it. Very good. During the 4 months of the rainy season, it's very difficult to travel for the sadhus, for the sages, to just wander, because why would it be difficult to travel during the rainy season? Because of the rain, yes, and because the roads are all muddy, and sometimes in the muddy waters there's snakes, and very difficult. And sometimes you can't. The small rivers that you can just walk across, they're so full of water you can't get across them. So during the 4 months of the rainy season, those sadhus who were continuously traveling, they would stay in one place and follow some strict regulations. Now, why would they follow strict regulations during the rainy season, more strict even than when they were traveling and walking? You have to raise your hands if you want to answer. Yes. They didn't want, yes, exactly. Because when you're traveling from place to place to place, just imagine if all the things that you were attached to in your house right now, you had to travel and carry with you by hand on your back or something like that, or you'd gradually become very detached from all the things, and you'd learn to live as simple a life as you practically can. So when one is staying in one place, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed that one tends to accumulate more and more and more and more things. Things that you think are completely necessary, but they're actually not fully necessary. So they were very, very strict, these sadhus, these Bhaktivedantas, they're called, and they were staying in one place. And Narada Muni, he was just a young boy. Any 5-year-old boys here? I think not. He was 5 years old, and he was humble, and he served them. Even though he was 5 years old, he wasn't interested in just what? Yes. He was serious. Not that every 5-year-old boy or even 9-year-old boy is serious like Narada Muni, but he was so serious. And not only that, he just served them, and he wasn't interested in playing. And not only that, he didn't talk a lot. He was grave, he was thoughtful for a 5-year-old boy. This is extraordinary. And he was extraordinary. And not only that, he listened to them as they were talking amongst themselves. Now, these were holy people. And you know what they talked about when they were talking amongst each other? What do you think they talked about? They talked about what they were interested in. And what were they interested in? They were holy people. They were talking about Krishna. They were talking about the absolute truth. This was what was on their mind. And what's on our mind invariably comes out our mouth. But not everything that's on our mind, which is something that we... Just imagine if you had a speaker attached from your mind and everyone could hear what you were thinking. We wouldn't have a friend in the world. Not only be arrested immediately for all the murders we were plotting and planning to commit, and everything else too. So he heard them, and by associating with these souls, the sweetness of their association so much affected this young boy's consciousness that the taste that they had for Krishna Katha entered and purified his heart, this young boy's heart. So Narada Muni is describing to Vyasadeva how he became the great sage Narada Muni. He had done it by this association. Now here's one verse that Narada Muni explains to Vyasadeva. He tells him, and it's a verse that we will read through the Prabhupada's purport on too. I'll just read the English. O Vyasadeva, who is speaking? Yes, thank you for listening. What's your name? Adi? Adi. Wonderful. What does Adi mean in English? Could anyone help Adi? It means many things, but what? Aryan. Also a wonderful name. Aryan. And, yeah. So, O Vyasadeva, speaking to Narada Muni, he says, in that association, in the association of those sages, those Bhaktivedantas, and by the mercy of those great Vedantas, they knew Bhaktivedanta, they knew the conclusion, Vedanta, the conclusion of the Vedas, they knew what it was, and it was bhakti, it was devotion to Krishna. So by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them. I heard them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna. And thus, listening attentively, by hearing with fixed attention, by actually allowing the sound vibration that came from their heart through their minds and mouths, came from their love of Krishna, coming out of their mouths, he heard it by his attentiveness, went into his ear, through his mind, into his heart. He heard them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna, and thus listening attentively, my taste, Vyasadeva is, Narada Muni is explaining how he became Narada Muni. His taste, my taste, he says, for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step. At every step, step by step by step. His taste to hear about Krishna, his desire to hear about Krishna increased step by step. And what's the final step? You have to raise your hands, please. But not all at once, because I'll get confused who to call on. But someone should raise their hands, because everyone knows the answer. What's the final step? Increase step by step by step by step. Yes. Yes, love for God, love for Krishna. Where one is only concerned about Krishna's happiness, that is love. One is completely captivated by this all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one desires to please him. That's Goloka Vrindavan. And that place is so amazing that in that atmosphere where everyone is just trying to please Krishna because of love, not because they're told they have to and do this because you have to, and if you don't do this, you're going to suffer. And this reason and that reason. No, it's all spontaneous, based on their love for Krishna, that all attractive, all beautiful, all, what are the other qualities? All wealthy, that's second. Third one, anyone? All strength, yes. Wait, just one at a time. But it's so amazing that you know so much. So wonderful. Do you know another one? We have so far all wealth, all strength, all beauty. Yep, all knowing. All famous. And last, all attractive. Yeah, that's the sum of it all. Bhagyavan. All renounced. Detached. Because he has everything. But yet, although he's all detached because he has everything and he's full of bliss, complete bliss, he's completely captivated by all those devotees who love him in Vrindavan. The nature of their love controls him. He's not a dictator. He's controlled by the love of his devotees. Bhaktivedanta bhajanta vedanyata. So how to attain that stage? Prabhupada said, we go to the school, we learn, but we should know what our goal is in the school of bhakti. And here's Prabhupada's purport. So I'll read the verse again. O Vyasadeva, Narada Muni is speaking, in that association, and by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna. And thus, listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Lord Sri Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, is attractive not only in his personal feature, but also in his transcendental activities. It is so because the Absolute is absolute. He's the same by his name, fame, form, pastimes, entourage, paraphernalia, etc. The Lord descends on this material world. Notice the choice of words, on this material world, not in this material world, because he's never in the material world. Just like the lotus flower is never in the water, it's on the water. One reads all this Shastra carefully, and it becomes very, very exciting, and you never think, oh, I already know everything, I already know all this stuff, I've heard it so many times. If one hears and reads, chants attentively, it's a different world that opens up. The Lord descends on this material world out of his causeless mercy and displays its various transcendental pastimes, his various transcendental pastimes as a human being. Why? Well, Prabhupada's going to tell us. So that human beings attracted towards him become able to go back to Godhead. Because they're attracted to him and want to be with him, not in the playground of the material world. Men are naturally apt or tend to hear histories and narrations of various personalities performing mundane activities without knowing that by such association one simply wastes valuable time, and also not only wasting time by hearing of or a consciousness dwelling in the material world. And also such a person becomes addicted to the three qualities of mundane nature. One becomes entangled and addicted to the material world. And if one is addicted to the material world, one will continuously stay in the material world. And it's in the playground of the material world. But unfortunately, the playground of the material world isn't all fun. It has the promise of being fun, the promise of enjoyment, but it cannot and does not. It is constructed not to fulfill the advertisement, the promise. So the fault of being, and this has been described already previously, but the fault of being in the playground is one wants to enjoy it. And then once wants to enjoy it, even though it's not satisfying, one becomes addicted to goodness, passion, and ignorance. The three qualities of mundane nature. So Prabhupada is giving an alternative next. Instead of wasting time, so he's already said it's a waste of time of our valuable life, one can get spiritual success by turning his attention to the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. And by hearing the narrations of the pastimes of the Lord, one contacts directly the personality of Godhead, because he's no different from his name, form, and pastimes. And as explained before, by hearing about the personality of Godhead, from within, all accumulated sins of mundane creatures are cleared. So two things happen at the same time. The heart is cleansed of its other desires, and at the same time, the desire to be with Krishna grows and grows and grows in the heart. Param drisvanavartate. Thus being cleared of all sins, the hearer gradually becomes liberated from mundane association and becomes attracted to the features of the Lord. As long as we're attracted to the material realm, we will not intensely become attracted to Krishna. So therefore, the school of devotional service is the school in which one advances to the point if one, as Prabhupada said, is no longer interested in the playground of the material world, but is very interested, intensely interested in Krishna, being with Krishna. And then it becomes very easy. Narada Muni has just explained this by his personal experience. The whole idea, what is it? Okay, when Prabhupada says the whole idea, what are we supposed to do? He's going to say what the whole idea is. So what should we do when Prabhupada says the whole idea is? Anyone else? How does it affect you? When Prabhupada, he's talking and talking, he says the whole idea is, now what should you do? I mean, yes, thank you.
To align our desires, Krishna's desires?
Yes, but he's going to tell you what you should do. So it's a invitation to wake up and pay attention very carefully. The whole idea is, do you want to know what the whole idea is? And he's going to say it in one sentence. Would you like to know what the whole idea is? Yes, are you sure? Yeah, I also would. As I'm reading, I'm going to listen very carefully. The whole idea is that simply by hearing about the Lord's pastimes, one can become one of the associates of the Lord. What's the whole idea? Raise your hand if you know what the whole idea is. Yes, Mataji. Thank you. That's the whole idea. Narada Muni has eternal life. Raise your hand if you'd like eternal life. Well, I would. Maybe I'm the only one who's raising their hands. But eternal. Oh, put it the other way. All those who want to die, raise your hand. You have two choices. You either live forever or you die, or maybe you can live forever and die. Maybe, no, you can't do both. Narada Muni has eternal life, unlimited knowledge. Anyone like unlimited knowledge? No. Well, you do, I know. Everyone's so shy today. And unfathomed, that means unending bliss. Narada Muni has eternal life, unlimited knowledge, and unfathomed, continuously deepening bliss. Would anyone like to be unendingly and continuously blissful? I mean, talking about fun, Krishna Das, I mean, that's really fun. Because what do you get fun in the, say if you'd like, do you ever go on a Ferris wheel? You ever been on a Ferris wheel? Was it fun? A little bit, okay. Okay, but just imagine if you were on that 24 hours a day. It wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be fun. Right? I mean, he's right. But this is unfathomed, unlimited bliss. And he could travel all over the material and spiritual worlds without restriction. Now, that's also attractive. You can go wherever you want. One can attain to the highest perfection of life simply by attentive hearing of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord from the right sources, as Sri Narada heard from the pure devotees, the Bhaktivedantas, in his previous life. This process of hearing in the association of devotees is especially recommended in this age of quarrel, Kali. That's the end of Srila Prabhupada's purport. So what's the whole idea? Because if you remember what the whole idea is, then even if your mind wandered, for the rest of it, at least you know what the entire conclusion was. Raise your hand if you remember what the whole idea was. Just give me an idea. Because I'm such a bad teacher that no one learned anything, what the whole idea is. Do you remember what the whole idea is?
Like we have to be with Krishna, like in the age of Kali, we should like associate with devotees and hear Krishna Katha.
Yeah, basically, that's it. I'll read it again. That one sentence, it's the whole idea. It's the whole idea. It's the whole idea. Get it? It's important. You ready? Okay. The whole idea is that simply, that's all you have to do. By hearing about the Lord's pastimes, one can become one of the associates of the Lord. One could be with Krishna in the spiritual world, Goloka, Vrindavan, Krishna Loka. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments? No, I won't call on you first. I'll put the pressure on everyone else. Anyone have any questions? Comments? Yes, Prabhu. Or comments?
I was just thinking when you were mentioning about, addiction, but to know that we are addicted, it's difficult to understand that we are addicted. So if we are addicted to the material world, we just don't understand we are addicted to all these desires and our contamination.
So, tomorrow we're going to have an Alone with Krishna retreat. And first of all, no mobile phones, right? And for 2-hour sessions, we just sit and either read and chant, or pray, or write about your relationship with Krishna. And it's only 2 hours. And it's quite focused. But if you had nothing to do for a whole day other than that, you'd find out what you're addicted to. So sometimes we should do that. And sometimes we should do that, sometimes we call that as ISKCON. When we minimize everything on the material side, ideally, because some of us work on, if ISKCON would come on on Sundays, it would be easier in that sense. Or public holidays. Now that would be a good resolution for the government. When they make you the prime minister, you can make public holidays come out on every ISKCON. Yeah, then you find out, when it's time to chant japa, or time to chant one's Sunday Gayatri mantras, then one can find out what one is addicted to in the material world that's not Krishna. So I've heard it said that there are different stages of becoming perfect. One is there's unconsciously imperfect, then there's consciously imperfect, then consciously moving forward, and then it's completely natural, swabhavika. and then you're already on the higher level. So the first stage is you're not conscious of all your addictions and impurities and faults. Then the stage above that, which is a very painful stage, is that you become very conscious of them, of what's holding you one back in Krishna consciousness. And then you try hard, and then you become conscious you're doing the right thing, and then it becomes natural. That's said about components. Did that address what you were saying? Thank you. Good comment. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So the Prabhupada, my question is, Prabhupada has said the whole idea is by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, you can simply become one of his associates. But at the same time, he has also stressed on importance of chanting and devotional service. So how do we understand?
Well, it's not, is that by hearing, everything else will come naturally. But if we don't hear, just like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, quoted many times, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Anasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva, Gatyanyata, that a misunderstanding of that is that I should just chant and not hear about Krishna, because your mind will not have anything to focus on. There's many reasons, but the hearing tells us how to chant, what to do to glorify Krishna, to become attracted to Krishna and his pastimes. Without hearing Bhagavatam, which is the Swarup Shakti of the Lord, he explains, the internal energy of the Lord. That also goes hand in hand in the association of devotees. So that was also there. So we hear about Krishna in the association of devotees, and also hear the chanting of Krishna's names, the glorification of Krishna. We see the deities in the association of devotees, in a holy place. So these Panchanga Bhakti, these 5 items, are so important. What is it? Oh, there's something. Does that answer your question? Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu. Did anyone ask themselves, could it really be so simple that all I have to do is hear about the pastimes of the Lord? Did anyone ask themselves that question? But this is the way to move. And then, of course, attentively is there too. Because hearing means that you're absorbed in what you're hearing. Because say if your ears are open, but your mind is somewhere else, are you actually hearing? And sometimes we learn the art of that. The art of putting our bodies in the place, but allowing our minds to be somewhere else. And that's one of the main differences between a young, innocent child devotee and an adult devotee, is that when a child's mind is wandering, the body starts moving around and doing things like this and like this. And adults have learned the art of hypocrisy. Or something. But hearing, allowing the sound vibrations to enter through our ears, through our mind, cleansing the heart, and inspiring action. Yes, desire, shifting our desires, so that not just putting the body in the place, which is so important, because it's hard to hear when the body is somewhere else. It's even harder than when the body is there. Yes. Sorry.
Thank you, Prabhu. Actually, that was my question, what you just mentioned about, because you mentioned about the whole idea is that simply by hearing the Lord's pastime that one can become one of the associates of the Lord. But we are hearing regularly, and you're also reading Prabhupada books regularly. But the attention is not there. Quite often, even though we are really trying sincerely, we're trying to pray and trying to really absorb what we're hearing, are we still getting purified? Are we still moving in the same direction?
Okay. When you say if hearing is the goal, hearing attentively and properly, then, and you realize that you're not really there and hearing when you're hearing. So that's, you could say, conscious incompetence. You become conscious of your incompetence. So what is the next step that occurs in the consciousness when you become, we'll make it more obvious what I mean, is that if you attend every class and think that I'm successful, and then someone tells you, were you listening to anything? And you realize, I've attended, but I'm not there mentally. And then what happens? What do you feel humbled? Well, anyway, that's what I wanted to say. So humility is one of the, when you become conscious of your fallen condition, you either defend it, blame everyone else, or you can become humble. And humility is the engine that will drive your journey forward. If at the same time as your desire is there and your feeling of competence is decreasing at every moment, and therefore Srila Sanatana Goswami explains in his Śrīmad Bhāgavatam that Dainya or humility and prema are the same. So the gopis, the other residents of Brahma, they're the most humble devotees. Narottama Das Thakur, Krishna's Kaviraj. They're the most humble of all souls. And that humility and the desire, both of them together, that is the situation in which bhakti is really born. Desire and humility and feeling of capacity, then that turns one's devotional service into begging and chanting very sincerely, like a baby crying for mother, etc. So when Prabhupada says the whole idea, or it's very simple, very easy, it's easy to understand, but not so easy to do. But it's not the fault of the process that it's not easy to do. It's the fault of me having 50 billion other desires at the same time as this one part of me desires, yes, I'd like to be with Krishna, the spiritual world, but I'd also like a new McLaren car that can speed along and not get caught. And I'd also like this, and I'd also like that. I'd also like to be Lord Brahma, who controls an entire universe. Now that would be great, if everyone would do everything I say. And then I'd also like, and we all have our long lists of things that we'd also like. We'd like everyone to love me, everyone to think that what a good class, what a wonderful singer. We all have these desires that never satisfy us, even if they're fulfilled. And rather they fill us with anxiety, because as soon as we sing well or give a good class to someone who knows more than us, who we get envious of and afraid of, and just this is the material world, it just doesn't work in a way that delivers happiness. That's good. Thank you. End of class. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta ki jai. C.C. Gonatai, C.C. Radha Ballabha, C.C. Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Devi ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premananda Hare Hare.